Hello, and welcome to Socially Holistic Podcast. Socially Holistic helps coaches and holistic entrepreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses make sense of social media so they can build their own online network and get more clients. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a 5-star review of this podcast. Please leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more heart-centered businesses will be successful. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast. This is episode 13. This is your host Holly Wharton, and I'm here today with special guest Cara Wilde from Wild Bliss. Hello, Cara.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you.
Thank you. So I would like to ask you a little bit about your background.
Okay. Well, in terms of my professional background,
Sure.
I was a trained counsellor. So I qualified in counselling working in an alcohol and addictions field. And at the same time, I was following a journey with my spiritual experiences through Reiki. And so I kind of guess my background has always been how to blend psychology and spirituality in terms of my business. And that's kind of, as I was growing up, I was having natural kind of empath experiences. So that's always been a bit of a quest for me, I think, how all those three blend together.
Interesting. And do you feel like you finally found that blending that works for you, or are you still working on it?
Well, I think we're always going to be a work in progress with how we understand those big questions about, how we work and how the world works. But I think I've found a place where I kind of naturally gravitate, where it feels comfortable, blending those two in the work that I do now, I guess.
And how would you say that you blend those two?
Well, I suppose the ideal way that I blend those two in my business and in my work, because there's not much difference between the business I am, who I am in my business. So whatever I offer in my business is what I do in my life. So I suppose I blend them by receiving guidance from, my guides and what I call different dimensions, and then learning how to blend that into how I live my life. On a day-to-day, practical, every day, this is really good philosophy, but how do I make this work in my life? That's the blend that I'm working with at the moment.
So tell us a little bit about your business journey. How did you get to where you are today?
I remember reading a book called Living Magically by Jill Edwards. I don't know if you've come across her, but she was my first introduction to this idea that we create our own reality, the basics of the law of attraction. And I was working in the alcohol field at the time and kind of feeling like I was being of service, which is important to me, but not really enjoying the experience. When I read her book, that was the first time that I'd come across the idea that you're supposed to do work that's joyful. It's really joyful, that brings you along, that you can't wait to do. And that was new. So that set me off on this whole journey of training as an energy therapist. And then I was doing that when me and my partner met, and we were meditating one night. And when I was meditating in what I call the higher realms, so in the realms of the guides, I met and blended with my guide that I work with now called Aurora. And one night while we were channeling her, I got a message for a friend of a friend about a health condition that he had. And then he asked for a reading with Aurora, and then he spread the word, and it kind of just took off from there. And that's how Wild Bliss, as it's known now, that's how it got to be where it is now. So
Aurora was the one who really kind of kick-started your new business model.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, which was really, not what I was anticipating. And I think that's something really crucial that I'd really like. This has been my experience that I think is just, for women in particular, we have this idea that, service and sacrifice go together. Like parenting involves a lot of struggle and sacrifice, and a lot of the women's roles are they can be kind of quite martyrish and, putting other people first. And it's been my experience. The reason why I think Aurora came through and why it all took off is because I was just following what was really joyful to me. And I was in this place where I was in a relationship I was happy with. I'd moved to a location that I was happy with. And so I was step by step following my joy and following my bliss with very little idea of where I was going. And it seems to me that the universe, if we can get ourselves into that place where we can follow our joy and can follow our bliss, the universe has so much better ideas for us than we could possibly have for ourselves.
Why do you think that is? Do you feel like we limit ourselves sometimes?
Absolutely, and I think it's deservability and worth. I've had some experiences recently when I went over to John of God in Brazil, and I had some experiences there where it was absolutely clear to me that we are loved beyond measure and that we are worthy of anything that we decide we just choose to experience. Life is supposed to be joyful, our tagline. I really got concrete experience of that. But we limit ourselves through conditioning. We think we have to work really hard and justify everything,
And what are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome when building your business?
Exactly that, I think. That worthiness. Pricing was a challenge for me. Learning because when I first started, there was two things in terms of pricing, I think. First of all is that I really wanted to, when I first started in business, it was, and this is a few years ago now, it was really difficult for me to accept that level of finances that people were saying, this is what this, product, as it were, is worth. And I think for women that I've talked to in business that are in this field of alternative health or holistic health, whatever it is, we're fighting a lot. Well, not fighting, but we're having to unlearn a lot of condition that spiritual gifts should be given away for free.
Yes. I see that so often, and this comes up in conversations so often with women in business, and especially women in heart-centered businesses.
Yeah.
It's like we've got this drive to help people, and so we just think, but not everyone can afford us, so we must give it all away for free.
And I think it's what I've really learned is that people do value you more when they exchange for money.
Yes,
they do, absolutely do. Not only, and it's taken more seriously, more effort is put into it. I'm not just talking about from the person who's offering the service, but as a co-creation. And also, one of the other biggest things that I've learned is for me to get support as a woman in business too, and I need to pay for that.
Yes.
And to support myself as being the best in service that I can be, I need money. I absolutely do, because we don't live in a society where everything's free.
No, we don't. Now, is this something that Aurora has been able to help you with?
Yes, absolutely, because I talk to her about my prices and she gives me what she thinks that my price should be. Okay, I'll breathe into that one. So she's always, when I'm asking for guidance from her, she always sees me in my next bigger version. So, and that's what happens in the work with people as well, is that she can see the dreams that we have for ourselves, and she can also see what our potential is and where we need to be stepping next. And it's always a greater version, because that's the thrill of the ride, isn't it? Stepping into the next bigger version of who you are, allowing more of your, some people call it your soul's energy to be present in this lifetime, so stepping into that bigger version.
I like that. And I like how you have that work with her to kind of help push you into your next level. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes I don't listen. I really, sometimes I don't, and it takes something else to move me. And recently, this is one tip that I'd like to give people a little bit as well in terms of ways of finding out listening to your body instead of your mind, in terms of letting go of that conditioning. Is I was talking to a coach and she had this suggestion that I go and do something that was the next level for me in my business, and something that had some risk factor. And I just noticed that as she asked me, my body leant forward and moved towards her quite strongly. And I thought, well, I really want to do this. On a deep level, I want to do this. So my mind might be saying, who do you think you are? Ego trying to keep us small. Then the flip side of that is, oh my God, I can't possibly do that. The other side of ego keeps us really, smaller than we are. So yes, listening to my body. That's interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us get so stuck in our minds that we forget to listen to our body, to be aware of things like body movements that aren't necessarily voluntary.
Absolutely, because that's how your unconscious speaks to you, isn't it? That's how we actually know a lot. We know a lot more about ourselves when we do pay attention to that. And one of the things that I always promote, especially for people that do consider themselves, empathic, I support quite a lot of people that find it difficult. They're very empathic and intuitive, but they find it difficult to be grounded and to be fully present in this world, and find it a bit painful. And one of the most important things you can do, I think, for your business and for your life is to make sure that you are grounded. So make sure that you are in your body, and you do, it's a cliche because it's true, spending time out in nature, but finding ways to be fully present.
I love that. I'm so lucky to live in an area that's just surrounded by forest. And my absolute favorite thing to do on the weekends is to take a long walk through the trees. And sometimes due to weather, I just don't do it. And so I spend more time in the gym than I do amongst the trees. And I really, really feel when I'm out of touch with nature.
Yeah.
It's like there's something not quite right. It's like I need to make that connection again.
And I think it's a direct connection with unconditional love. I remember reading something. Aurora always says, nature doesn't take anything from you, it only ever gives. Only gives. And I was thinking about that, and I came across another piece of writing where this man said, you never look at a tree and think how you can improve it. And I think when you're out in nature, there's this complete acceptance that everything's perfect. And when you're held in that, you look out and most of the time, we don't look on how to improve it. We just notice differences. We notice shades. We notice colours. We're quite often moved by the differences and the contrast. And that's kind of how we should be with each other and with ourselves, So I think instead of the judgment, I think when we're out in nature, it's almost like being held by that unconditional love.
I like that. So tell us a little bit about what you have to offer people. I originally met you through Leonie's Amazing Biz and Life Academy, and then my first connection with you was through one of your inner journeys, the visualizations and the processes that you offer. And before you answer this question, I just want to share one of the big parts of my business journey that I always tell when I tell people about how I got to where I am with my business is that I started listening to these guided meditations and visualizations, and through those I noticed that I was called to shift my work from working with authors to working with holistic practitioners and coaches and women in heart-centered businesses. And I just wanted to say it was Cara's and Aurora's processes and visualizations and guided meditations that helped me. They played a huge, huge role in shifting my business this year.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. That's right.
Good. So these are huge, life-changing things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about them?
Well, the inner journeys and the processes, I guess, you see what I really feel like a lot of my job is that I go, this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but I've kind of got used to sounding like this. But I go to other dimensions and I bring back information. Ooh. So on the inner journeys, when there were the personalised ones or the ones that I offer now, I set the intention of this is what I want people to experience, and then I go off and I come back with that information. And quite often they're in symbol form, so they talk to your subconscious and they talk to your beings, your being on many levels. And that's something that I've done for years and years and years and always will. I love it. And my business now, that is quite a small part of what it is that I offer at the moment. That's kind of like my foundation of where I started, I guess.
And do you find that that's how people start to work with you and then they move on to other things? Or
Yeah, and because something that I found really useful in terms of pricing is I have 3 structures now, so that people are going to want to know that they can trust me. Mm-hmm. Before I work with somebody. And so the guided inner journeys are at a smaller price, so that people can feel comfortable in trying them out and seeing whether they, the work that I offer is going to resonate with them, whether I work in a way that works for them. And then after a period of time, if they feel, that connection, then maybe they want to start looking at working at the next level and then the next level. And that's been really useful in terms of a pricing model for me to use.
I like that. And so what are the other 2 levels that you're offering?
Well, the first level above that at the moment, the first level is a one-off reading with Aurora. So people come and I blend and I verbally channel her. And what she does is she, a bit like I was saying before, so people come with relationship issues or they come with wanting to know what their life purpose is. And so she'll illuminate their true essence, who they... their authenticity and what might match them in terms of work or in terms of relationship. So she illuminates that for them. And then also she lets them know what's blocking them and what's getting in the way. Ooh. So the first package is really worked. Either want a really broad overview of their life and their true essence and their true authenticity, or they've got a very specific area that they just want, they want kind of quicker answers to. So there's the one-off, and then there's the what I call the soul coaching, which is a more intensive work with Aurora, where she works with them over a period of a couple of months with me as a mentor as well.
Oh, I like that combination.
Yeah, where we work to clear the blocks that are getting in the way. So I utilise my therapist background and the guided visualizations, and it's a whole package together. Both of us working together, me and Aurora, really.
And how do you find that works with people? Are people very open to having that kind of dual connection?
Yes, and I make sure that it's very clear that that's what it is that I offer, so that the people that are attracted to the services they're open to it. Otherwise, it's making you get the right clients, isn't it? Making sure that I'm really clear in what it is that I offer, so people can choose whether that's the way that they want to work. But it works really well. And I love it because I get to play in many different roles that I have.
I like that. That sounds like a very effective combination. So you've said on your website that Aurora has said that her purpose is to help people remember who they are. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, what Aurora means by that is that we are more than the personality that we see in front of ourselves. So our personality, our physical bodies are a portal for our souls to be experiencing this lifetime. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And that whilst we're in this physical body, quite often we are more than who we think we are as well, and capable of so much. We're capable of creating and experiencing so much more than we perhaps think we are, that we can have quite a small view of ourselves. And she really wants to help people to connect with their authentic nature, their real way of being, just to be, who is Holly? If you weren't being consistent, if you weren't listening to those little messages and you were just following that gut instinct and that part of you that knows how to feel alive, what would you do? What changes would you make? Who would you be then? That's where she's coming from.
I love that, because I think that's one of the great challenges that so many people have in life. It's just tapping into who they are authentically.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's interesting at the moment is that I think there is this idea that there is a life that we were born to live. And it's not kind of in destiny, in a destiny way, but it's a life that's filled with intimacy, aliveness, passion, vibrancy, realness, rawness, the vulnerability that Brené Brown talks about. So I think that there is a life that we were born to live that has those components, and the way to live it is to be the person that we were born to be. So, that's the magical child in us, if you like. And all we have to do is be who we really are. So it's one of those things that's just really simple, but maybe not so easy to do.
It takes a little bit of work, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can. One of it.
So you've got a second website, which is the Wild Bliss channel, where you record sessions with Aurora and with other entities as well. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I can. That's kind of where people were writing in and asking questions that they wanted, like a broader understanding of the world and how it works, and universal secrets and big questions, and so we decided to put that together. And also, as part of my work as a channel, I'm like many other people that can do that can do this kind of work is it's not just one guide that I talk to. So there's as many people on that dimension as there are on this dimension. So it was a fun way of creating a conversation between people, of exploring, the universal secrets and perhaps things that we just don't think about in our day-to-day lives.
So what would you say are your top tips for helping people blend, as you said in the beginning, psychology and spirituality in business and work? I know one thing that you mentioned was you worked a lot in getting guidance from your guides, but how would you recommend that other women in business do that?
Women that don't work with guides?
Yeah.
Well, I think that we always have the answers in us, absolutely, whether we believe in guides or we believe that we're just here for this, this one lifetime and that's it. We all have the answers within us. We already know it. We just talk ourselves out of it. So I would encourage women to find their centre. So to, like you suggested, that you feel differently when you're in nature, find a way that brings you back to your centre. And when you're at the centre because you just feel like you're in that place where you make a decision and it doesn't really matter whether it's right or wrong because you just know that you need to do this. Do you recognise that place? It's hard to describe in words. So that is what I would call my centre, that place of this might be right, this might be wrong, I just need to do it. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage women to find ways of getting back into that centre regularly, frequently, and ask themselves questions about their business and about their life from that place, to get plenty of support as well, of support. And then to remember play around with the idea of using a guided principle that life is supposed to be joyful and that everything that we do is supposed to be because we want to. So that's not eradicating, challenging times, but like your shift, in your business came from listening to that still centre of your place through a guided visualisation, but basically it was a way of connecting with that centre of yourself and then following what felt most joyful.
Mm-hmm. And it's just tapping into that inner wisdom that we've got. I mean, I think so many of us, as I said before, spend a lot of time in our heads, but we're also just rushing, and oftentimes we just don't slow down and stop and listen.
Yeah, and finding ways, and I mean, that's what eating does, it's finding ways of escaping our body, because that's where the truth is sometimes. Slowing down and reconnecting to that centre. And there was something that Aurora always says, she cannot teach us anything that we don't already know. And I believe that, and I see that happening in readings over and over again with people. Aurora will say, this is how you truly are, this is the essence that you were born in, this is what you decided for this lifetime. I know, I feel that, because it always feels like you've come home. Or truth always feels like you've already known it. So we've already got our inner guidance system.
I agree. So what about women who might be curious about finding their guides or working with guides? How would you recommend that they start approaching that?
Well, I would encourage them to use inner journeys and to set the intention that they are going to relax and then they're going to journey into a different dimension and that they're going to connect with a guide. But for people that don't do inner journeys, I suppose that's a bit challenging, really. So I would suggest that they set the intention that they want to connect with their guide, that they want to connect with either an internal signal or an external signal. And you see, I have got a big faith in the universe that when you set the intention like that and you want to, the guides are really just waiting. Ask. And they'll move mountains to get to you. So you might be drawn to go to a class, or you might be drawn to go to the post office and there's something in the window. A book might fall off at workshop, in a library or something. These are all things that have happened to me and to other people. They will get through to you and they will find a way. So it's not that hard. Just set the intention and ask.
I think that's also a very, very important thing. A lot of people struggle and they don't ask for help.
Yeah, and you can just do it, what I call a universal ask. So if you don't feel like you've got any people in your physical sphere at the moment that you could ask for help from, then you can do a universal ask, which is just the universe saying to the universe, please, I just need some guidance on this. They will respond. I mean, I've got a short story on that, but I think we're running out of time, really.
We are, but if you'd like to share it, I would love to hear.
I was in my garden and Aurora came through and I knew of this person, and Aurora came through and said, send her an email asking her if she wants to talk to me. Okay, I will. No, now. Yeah, I will. No, now. Go to your computer now and do it now. Like, okay, all right, I will. So I went and I typed it and I sent it, and she's a kind of friend, you know. I did it a Facebook friend. I didn't know her very well at all. And so I sent her this email, and she just got back to her car as the email came through on her phone, and she picked it up and it was me saying, do you want some guidance with a reading with Aurora? 10 minutes before, she'd been in the gym trying to figure something out, and she didn't. So she said to the universe, I can't do this, I need some guidance.
Wow.
And that must have been the time when Aurora came through and said, send her the email. So we did, and lots of things happened. Lots of things happened from that conversation. So, you know, magic works.
You just have to ask for help.
Absolutely, yeah.
So a lot of what we've talked about today, and a lot of your business, is around finding your bliss and doing work that's joyful and having joy in your life. What are your top tips for women in business doing work that they truly, truly enjoy?
Top tips in how to make that happen?
And how to make that happen.
Get support. Get support from people that believe in you, that enjoy your work and enjoy who you are. So people that can see the grander version of you when you cannot, so that when you're having those, what did I ever think I could do this for? That you've got friends that say, no, we see the bigger part of you. You just can't see it right now. That's been the biggest shift for me. And then, so I've got a business mastermind group but the important thing, Holly, is that they are doing work that's similar to me. So it doesn't feel like I'm having to speak a foreign language. They're my tribe.
Yeah.
So find your tribe and just keep going for it. Just keep going for it, because you're unpeeling layers of conditioning that says that work is struggle and sacrifice. I mean, you know, this is not in my, when I was getting career guidance, people were pushing me towards social work. It was not about being a channel side, you know. And I think, and remember that when you're following your joy in your work, you're probably going to have to create a new job. There's not anything out there. We're the architects of the future, I think. And our generation is at that place where we are building new forms that are probably going to be quite mainstream in future years to come. But now we're at that bridge building point where a lot of people are going to think we're crazy. You'll never make any money doing that. Nobody's going to be interested. And they're the voices that they're like guardians of the old mythology, I call them. You know, they stand at the door of the bridge to something new, and we just have to keep saying, you're the past voice, and just keep having faith in ourselves whilst getting as much support as possible.
Yeah, I think that's very important. So do you have any women business mentors, or are there any women in business who inspire you?
Well, I think I take little bits from people like Danielle Laporte. I like her attitude. She creates a feeling of individuality. I use that. Leonie Dawson, that you've already mentioned, she's very good for people that are just at the beginning of their business, I think, and want proof that they can actually do this. And Mario Forleo and Marie, those are the three main kind of big business women in the internet that I take little bits from what they do and get inspired by them. And more important to me are the people that are in my mastermind group, because we're all at a very similar level with our business and we all do very similar work. So it's easy to say, oh, what do you think of this web page? And do I come across all right? And what about this photo? Is it just really bad? You know, it's just not good. So also getting support from people that are at the same stage of you is really important as well, I think.
I agree. So before we wrap things up, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
If you've got a dream, if you've got an idea inside of you, then really just follow it, because you can't have them. You're not capable of dreaming something that you can't do, I think. I think if you can dream it, you can do it. But then the important thing is that some dreams are meant to die. So for example, me letting go of being just an energy therapist and these ideas I had about setting up a healing centre, that was meant to just, it was a stepping stone to this.
Yes.
So follow everything, and especially in your mind, play it out. Don't dismiss any impulses or desires that you've got, especially when they're the ones that bring you alive. So yeah, don't just follow it, and if it doesn't work out, it was probably a stepping stone to something better.
I think that's such an important thing to call out, because so often we think, oh, we have this idea, so we've got to hold on to it and cling to it and not let go of it. But it's like, perhaps that's just one step on your path to something else.
Yes, and I always think, you know, a loving hand doesn't grasp, it's open and allowing. So that's how I hold my business, I guess, with an open hand, because you just never know what better surprises are on there.
I love that. So could you tell us where people can find you online?
Yes, there's wildbliss.com. We've also got a Facebook page, which is Wild Bliss Live, and then there's the Wild Bliss channel that you mentioned too. So yeah, they're the places that they can find us. And I am on Twitter, but I haven't quite got on board with that yet. So Facebook is the place where I put my video logs and where we have quite a bit of interaction on our Facebook page. So that's the best way to get to know me, I think.
Good. All right. Well, thank you very, very much, Cara.
It's been a pleasure.
And thank you for listening. And remember to visit sociallyholistic.com/SHP13 for the show notes on this episode. And we'll have links to everything that we've talked about there. So thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to the Socially Holistic Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. Please help us help more women in business by giving us a 5-star review of this podcast. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more successful businesses there will be. So please leave a 5-star review today over at iTunes. Thank you.